What's up, everyone? Vu of MVU Films back with another video. And if you guys don't know me and followed my content already, my name is Vu. I'm a videographer or photographer sometimes, filmmaker, and a social media person, YouTuber, content creator who focuses mostly on video making content like video gear, tutorials, how to do things. And I also have ADHD and I'm autistic. And today I'm going to talk more in detail about that. And as always, it is a very difficult topic to talk about, not because it's like difficult for me to share it or something. It's just because it's a very complex topic. It is dealing with, mental health, psychology, and that in itself is complex because it is a mental thing. So it's not always outwardly apparent. Like, it's not something physical. It's not, the same as like a physical ailment, like a broken leg or something. But at least on the ADHD side, I would say visually, my office as it is right now could be a very key indicator that I have ADHD. And this is actually not as bad as it could get. Like, it has been worse before. Does it bother me? Yes and no. If I'm working, filming a YouTube video or something like that, if I'm doing something where I'm intensely focused on, which happens a lot with ADHD, I'm fine. But then at the same time, day to day, walking into it, like in the morning, I'm like, wow, I need to really clean this up. Wow, this is a problem. But once I get past that and I start working on something, like, I don't notice it. And like a lot of people who don't have ADHD cannot work in this environment at all. Whereas I understand that it's an issue, but I'm completely fine with working in it, if that makes any sense. And it's a cycle with this. So basically, it would get really messy. And at a certain point, which is right around maybe here or worse, I'm like, okay, I got to do something about it. And I start putting things away. And when I put things away, it's not organized. Like, I'm just putting it somewhere relatively, like things in relative spaces that they're related to. But a lot of times it's just being thrown around. And you're probably like, how does it get to this point? Well, I don't know if this is ADHD or me being autistic or something, but like logically speaking, and I think a lot of just guys probably do this, but maybe not to this extreme. But to me, if I'm still going to use something like within the next few days, why should I put it away? That's my logic. Like, why should I put something back or away if I know I'm going to use it again? It makes no sense for me to like put it away and then go dig for it. Why should I go put this in storage when I know I'm going to use it 2 days from now? And unfortunately, the same thing goes with like my clothes. So, obviously I'm married. So fortunately, to be honest with you, but with my clothes, before my wife and everything, I was completely fine with it just being in a basket. Because why am I going to fold and put things away when I'm going to pick it up and wear it, in a couple of days anyway? Like, what's the point of putting all this extra effort and wasting time folding it and putting it in the right, quote unquote, right spot when I'm going to just use it up in a couple of days anyway? And that's the same logic I have with like my stuff. It's like, why am I going to put away this SD card reader if I'm going to use it tomorrow? Why am I going to put this camera away when I'm going to be talking about something on it tomorrow? And I know there's a problem with that because what happens is I never put it away. Even like, let's say after I've completely used it and I know now I'm not going to use it again until like a month or two, I don't put it away. So there's a lot of crap here that, probably had to do with some other YouTube video I was working on or some other project I'm working on, and it's still here at my desk. So obviously, like, this video is going to be very mixed in. Like, I mixed in a bunch of stuff, I think, earlier because I've been trying to make this video for a long time, as I said. And it's just hard to like organize my thoughts and like get all these things up because it's a complicated subject. Really, I'm just trying to this video is to help make sense of it all. And again, this is this is geared more towards like autistic adults, people who are ADHD or autistic who weren't diagnosed until later in life. And some of you are like, yeah, what the heck does this have to do with anything? Well, I have somewhat of a following, and I think it's important for me to put information out there to help people, because honestly, a lot of people in my field are like me in that way and may be undiagnosed or don't really know about it as thoroughly. And maybe it'll help them out, help you out, whatever, okay? My biggest issue with, autism, ADHD, and all that stuff is the fact that they're just labels, and they're very general labels for very broad set of characteristics in an individual. And the problem is, a lot of people, when you tell them, hey, look, like, I'm autistic, I got diagnosed, with autism, I have ADHD and all that stuff, people kind of like brush it off. They don't really take it seriously, especially if you're quote unquote high functioning, which is a person who diagnosed with autism, ADHD and stuff like that. They appear to be normal, like me, for the most part. Outwardly speaking, when you talk to me, whatever, on YouTube, you would think that I'm, a regular dude. For the most part, yeah, I'm a regular dude, but there are things about me, struggles I went through as a child and stuff like that, to make me who I am, like at a deeper level. Being autistic with ADHD has everything to do with it. You know what I mean? Like, the way I present stuff on my channel in a way is very quote unquote autistic way of doing it. The way I organize my thoughts and spit it out to you is very ADHD as well. Like, what I get a lot is like, everyone is a little bit autistic. Everyone has like a little bit of ADHD or something. I get it. I mean, honest, it's kind of annoying, but at the same time, I get it, right? Psychological stuff is just not, the same as like physical stuff. It's not as like apparent because it's mental, like people aren't going to always be showing you their quote unquote symptoms. It's not like if I'm walking around with an ailment, like a broken leg, and I'm like, yo, my leg is broke, it hurts. You clearly see it, right? You're not going to be like, well, people have leg pain once in a while. Like, I woke up and the other day my ankles hurt. Like, that's completely different than having a broken leg, because, it's an extreme example, but it is like that because everyone is inattentive sometimes. Everyone has hobbies, right? But when you are like, you have ADHD, your hobbies or your special interest or whatever is really intense. Like, it's to the point where it can affect your daily life. Like, you forget to eat, you can't pay attention in class, you don't get work done. Like, that's the difference. Because most people, everyone likes football, right? Everyone likes to watch football, everyone likes fantasy football, but they could go into their office and like they could shut off that part of their mind and they could just start working. Me, when the Commanders were doing well last year, that's all that was on my mind. Okay. And thank God, like, I am no longer in the 9-to-5 world. I could, I used to be an accountant, and now I'm like, I work on my own. I'm my own boss and stuff like that. But I was unproductive for a month. I got some things done, but like, I feel like I could have gotten a lot more things done. But the problem was the Commanders, for the first time in like 33 years, were in the playoffs and all that stuff. It just completely just wrecked my couple of months. It's like the same thing with like, a lot of people say like, oh, that person's a narcissist. The reality is everyone has some narcissism in it, like narcissism traits, but like to be actually like diagnosed as, with narcissistic personality disorder, you have to have like these traits in like extreme ways. So, it's kind of, it's not really cool to be like dismissive about something like that, especially when people with a diagnosis, people who are autistic or ADHD, whatever, and they get the diagnosis later in life, it really helps them learn about themselves, like why they're the way they are. And, if they felt like, hey, they didn't do well in school and they thought they were dumb or something like that, it helps them realize they're not, like things, and they realize, it also helps them realize that society, the way things are structured, especially Western society, it is made almost to work against them. Like autistics like myself struggle in social situations. And do we really need to be in meetings and group settings to accomplish our work? Do we really need to, get into groups to like properly do these assignments? Yes and no. You know what I mean? And because we don't work well in groups, like we're not gonna do as well, or like it kind of like makes us feel uncomfortable or something like that, more so than other kids, more often than other kids. And then that's what we have to deal with when, it wasn't really necessary, but it is necessary because that's how society is. There's a demand for that kind of behavior, right? What I'm hoping here is that the way I explain these things to you is that it's going to help you if you are diagnosed with it and you still have doubts about it, which I do all the time. And if you aren't diagnosed about it and then you're going to learn about it and then you're like, hey, maybe I'm kind of like that. And if you don't think you're like that and you don't know much about it, well, you're about to know more about it, and hopefully it makes you understand it better. But the reality is, it's a very difficult subject to talk about because it's complicated. Like I can't sit there and go through all like I'm not going to sit there and go through diagnostic criteria and explain like my childhood to everyone I tell, I speak to, and I tell them, yeah, I'm autistic, and I got to go through like a whole spiel about it. It's too much, and I'm not going to do it here either. I'm going to just explain my childhood and stuff like that. I'm going to try to explain the best I can, like in a very informal way, because again, like I'm not here to diagnose you. I am not here, even though I think I probably could sometimes, but I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a dude who just knows a lot about it because obviously I researched it and all that stuff for myself. I wasn't diagnosed as autistic until like 38, 39. I was diagnosed with ADHD like a year or so before that. And, the only reason why I got diagnosed with ADHD in the first place was because I saw some things online, and then I started researching about it. And I always felt like growing up, I'm a little bit different than most. Like school didn't work for me, the whole 9 yards. I'll get into details later, but basically I got diagnosed with that. I started taking medication. Okay. I take Adderall. It helps me. Okay. It helps me focus on things that aren't necessarily my interest. It helps me get through tasks that I normally would have a lot harder time to do. I can't focus on, and it would take me, 8 hours to do something that should only take 3. You know what I mean? With regards to autism, my son, I got him, he was showing signs of, when he was like, 1.5, 2 years old, he was showing signs of developmental delay in the social department, communicating, talking, things of that nature. And in researching for him, that's when I started looking at it. And, my wife, she's a nurse, so she's always on like the up and up about this stuff. And then she said, I think, Jackson might be autistic. And then, as she was researching it more, she came down and she downstairs one night, and she looked at me and she's like, I think you're autistic. I'm like, got offended, because my view, what I knew about autism was like this specific thing that you see, kids hand flapping, kids making noises and things like that. And that's part of it. And I think the reason why it's difficult for someone like me to relate is because years ago, and my psychologist said this too, is like I wouldn't have been diagnosed as autistic, but would have been Asperger's syndrome, and they eliminated that entirely now, and they just like put it into autism, and that's why there's a disconnect. But essentially, the way they look at it is, again, autistics are people who used to be diagnosed as has Asperger's syndrome. It's like having a sprained ankle versus having like a complete ligament tear. You know, when you're talking about like further down the spectrum of, you know, being autistic, you know, people with this, for example, people with the sprained ankle could still walk around okay. I function in life, I function in society fine. But people with like more severe autistic traits, it's very difficult for them to function properly in life. They need a lot of assistance. It's quote unquote disabling. And, you know, they consider me disabled too. And the only reason why that is because, again, like society is kind of works against me. Like I kind of have an uphill climb to be successful. And a lot of people with just even quote unquote mild autism, like, you know, myself, they don't do well in life. You know, like in many ways, I am very lucky, very fortunate to have a wife and kids. That's one. And I have a job. And that's literally by the grace of God, by sheer luck, I became a videographer, because I don't know where or what I'll be doing right now if I stayed as an accountant. I think I would have went insane or something like that. You know, I did accounting for 10 years, worked 9 to 5. And I'm telling you, it was a huge struggle, because not only is it boring, but because as someone with ADHD, I had a bunch of invoices I got to put in, a month's worth of invoices. And for that whole month, I would be browsing the internet on things that I was interested in. And then the last 2 days, I completely enter in all of my invoices for the entire month. And the reality is, I knew that it wouldn't affect the books or anything, but company had protocols and stuff like that. They wanted people to enter in their invoices every day, make sure all that stuff is entered in like in a certain time. But look, in accounting, invoices, they all get paid at a certain time. As long as it's recorded in that month, you're good to go. And I got written up a lot. I got written up, okay? Not once. I got written up 2 different occasions for 2 different jobs doing accounting, because I just had invoices stacked up on my desk. And to most people, to a regular person, yeah, that's a concern, because people don't have certain abilities to do things really quickly in a short amount of time, last minute. And that is where my ADHD comes in. I can hyperfocus, right? There's a deadline. I have 2 days to enter in a month's worth of invoices. No problem. No problem. Zone in, put it through, good to go, you know? So it's like things like that was, you know, always a struggle. And that's something that, you know, started back in like school age, kindergarten, whatever, you know. And the thing is, you know, if you're trying to get like diagnosed as an adult, these diagnostic criterias, and when you look them up, they are designed for kids, you know, because you could see this as children when they're behind. Like, for example, you know, my son, he's 4 years old. He's not potty trained. And, you know, I was, everyone's different. Not every, there's less 4-year-olds than there are 4-year-olds that still cannot, you know, pee in the toilet and poop in the toilet properly. Okay. And the weird thing is not like the guy does never pooped in the toilet before and never peed in the toilet before. He has no problem doing it. He just won't communicate when he has to go. And he is completely comfortable peeing and pooping in his underwear. Yeah, like every kid is different, but like that is different. Okay, that's, you know, you can't say, well, everyone develops their own way, but like when someone is so far away from the norm, that's when it becomes something diagnosed, So it's like everyone has leg soreness after walking, sure, but that dude's leg is bent the other way. Clearly, dude's leg is broken, It's just, that's why there is these diagnoses, okay? Like, reality is we just label like, hey, if you're autistic, maybe that's just a personality thing, or ADHD is a personality thing. You can say that too. But in this world, they diagnose those as mental disabilities or whatever. So it is what it is. And look, like, yeah, I'm okay, right? Like, I seem okay. I have a house, kids, wife, and all that stuff. Like, successful like every normal person. But like, truly, you don't really understand what goes through my mind here. And it's a lot of shit that goes in my mind all the time. A lot of autistic traits get subdued, like, because I have ADHD. Like, so there's a lot of like need for structure and stuff, as an autistic, but I can be flexible because of ADHD. It's a weird thing. It's a really weird dynamic where, like, sometimes I can be very rigid, and then sometimes I could strangely be very flexible with stuff. A lot of autistic people could be very organized, like super, like disgustingly organized. If you look at me, the ADHD comes through in my office. It's a mess. I'm very unorganized. Like, ever since a kid, beyond just not being the best at socializing and making friends, like, my binder was always a mess. My backpack was always a mess. My drawer was always a mess. Like, socks, like, it's just, if you want to see like disorganization at its finest, you look at me, okay? And the weirdest thing is, my disorganization doesn't cause me any issues. Meaning, if I need to find a piece of paper, I could find it. It's like when I start working in accounting, my boss would come into the room. She would be really concerned at my desk because there's like papers literally all over the place. And then she would ask me, there's one thing, like, there's one boss I really appreciated. Like, at the time, I wasn't diagnosed with anything. I didn't know any better, but she saw the way I worked. I got things done, and she didn't really care. As long as I got things done, she was good with it. But she was concerned one day because, she looked at my desk and it was just a complete mess. Things are all over the place. And she's like, Vu, like, you need to, or this is a problem, you're like, how are you supposed to find stuff like all these things? And she asked me for like some report, and I just like lifted up a stack of papers and pulled the report out within like 3 seconds, probably faster than most people would, with it organized in like some folder. I knew exactly where it was. And she was just like, kind of just like walked away. Like, it's like, it's weird. It's like chaotic, but I kind of know where most things are, at all times, And at the same time, sometimes I don't know where things are. And that's when things become a problem. It's like, most of the time, like, things that I'm using every day, every other day, it's there. But all of a sudden, like, I need some specific piece of paper. And I know it's somewhere in my stack of papers, but I just can't pinpoint it. And that's when things become a shit show, because it would take like the whole day to find it. But then most of the time, it's just oddly, I just know where things are. And, throughout school, that's what it was, like, binder, complete. My desk was a complete mess. Like, everything, it was just horrific. I never finished reading any chapters of textbooks in my life. I rarely finished reading any books, period. I think the only book I could say that I genuinely finished, other than like a children's book, was Jurassic Park. And even that, like, I kind of missed parts because my mind kept wandering. So my problem with reading is that no matter how hard I try, even if it's like an interesting book, like a book of something I like Jurassic Park, I like dinosaurs and stuff like that, like there's boring parts in this book. And when there's boring parts, like good luck. Like there's no way I can like focus on, on that. And that was the problem with textbooks. It was like, no matter how hard I tried, I knew like if I read these textbooks and stuff like that, that I'm going to do better in school, I'm going to get better grades. And I would really concentrate. I would spend like hours trying to read these chapters, and the problem always would be like I could read like maybe a paragraph and then I'd slowly drift off into my own world. And the problem is, although I am like daydreaming and thinking about other things, I'm still reading the text. So I'm like kind of reading words, but it's not registering. And then after going through like 5 pages, I'm like, yo, what the hell did I just read? Because I'm daydreaming. And then so I try to do that again. It keeps doing this over and over again. And the next thing you know, I've spent hours trying to read this book and I can't. My mind just cannot focus on things if it is boring at all. And that goes to everything. It goes to talking to people, socializing, reading, every aspect of my life. It affects that. And people think like, well, I'm not trying hard enough or something. Like, dude, I was the type of kid, again, part of my like, as much as school was like such like a hard thing to do because of like the social aspect of it, friends, cliques and all that stuff, it's very complex. I wanted to be in school. Like I always woke up on time. I always had a structure. Like I had an outfit, or at least bare minimum a shirt that I was going to wear Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So like every Monday I'd wear the same outfit. Tuesday would be the same outfit I wore the previous Tuesday. It's like the same thing all the time. And socks, I had specific socks that I like to wear. Like it's crazy, it's weird when you think about it, but that's just how I structured it. And I always wanted to go to school in time. I wanted to make sure like being a good kid was easy. You sit there, you don't talk, you look at the teacher, quote unquote, you pay attention to the teacher, and hey, you look like a good kid. And it's weird because when I like got bad grades, and it was weird because when I got bad grades in school, teachers just had a hard time understanding me because I never missed class. I was always sitting on my desk. I wasn't disruptive. I was always paying attention, aka looking at them when they're talking. But again, it's learned behavior, right? I've learned that, hey, like these things, at least for the short term, would make me appear like a good student. I didn't want to get in trouble and all that stuff because I knew my parents would whoop my ass. So I sit there and I would just like look at the teacher while she's talking. But all because I'm looking at you doesn't mean I'm paying attention to what you're saying. Like I could be looking your direction, but I could be completely just daydreaming away. And that's what I did all the time. I was just daydreaming. Like if I had some other interest going on in my life, when they're talking about, I don't know, the Renaissance or something, which is boring as F, sorry, I'd be like thinking about like that video game that I've been playing, to get me through the class. Or I'd like doodle, one later on, like in high school and stuff, where like you take a lot of notes and stuff. I'd just be doodling. Like you go back, if I had my old notebooks, like all of like my doodles were like around like the edges. My notes were terrible, but like just doodles everywhere. And that was what I was good at. Like if like most of my intelligence went somewhere, it went towards like art, creating, drawing, sculpting, building Legos and stuff like that. And I know like with autistic kids, like Legos would probably be like an automatic thing, but like I'm a little bit different in the sense where like I don't really care for creating like whatever was, I bought that Lego set for, like if it's like a spaceship or something. I would prefer like a basket of just every single random Lego piece, and I just want to build things on my own. Like I want to make my own helicopter, I want to make my own airplane, I want to make my own vehicle with these parts, create my own thing. And that's how I've always been. And I just like creating my own stuff. Like when I play video games, like like Madden football or something, I prefer to create my own player. I like to create my own team. Like boxing games, I like to create my own stuff instead of like using other people's things. Like it's just how I am. In a lot of ways, it helps me with my field because, it requires you to be creative, thinking outside the box. And that's what I excel at, and, thankfully that's because of my autistic traits. Like that helps me be that way. Again, my childhood, I was not the hyperactive kid. I wasn't running around back and forth. And I don't remember or not perfectly for sure, but I could have been headed that direction if my parents weren't like super disciplinary. So like, I want to say that I used to really like jumping up and down on the couch and, running around and all that stuff. But I think my parents didn't like that. It's noisy. It's too much of a problem. I'm making a mess. So I'm pretty sure I got disciplined. My parents are the type that, they're old school immigrant parents. So like they're going to whoop your ass. And then, they'll do a really good job of explaining why my ass got whooped. And, as a kid, I'm not an idiot. Like I'm not trying to get beat up. So I'm going to just chill. You know what I mean? But like my psychiatrist said that I have inattentive ADHD. There's what inattentive ADHD is. It used to be just called ADD, like attention deficit disorder. I don't know why they name it this, but basically you just have trouble paying attention in most regular situations. So again, school is going to be a problem. Like if it's boring as crap, good luck to you. But if it's interesting to me, I'm the best at it. Like you cannot beat me at it. I was the best artist in my class. And yeah, there's probably some students I remember like that scored higher in certain areas, but that's because they followed directions to the T. But in terms of just like creating art, being creative, like I think I was probably like that's what I was known as in school, was like that guy who could draw or something. Regardless if I did AP art or not. But everything that had anything to being creative, like I excelled at. So like even like a home economics class, sewing stuff, I was good at it. English, I was really good at poetry, creative writing. But I was terrible at like writing like legit paragraphs, like business writing and stuff like that. Like, because even though, look, and I'm about to go on a tangent again, on a certain subject for no reason. And I think that is part of being autistic, but correct me if I'm wrong. But with the English stuff, like the thing about poetry and creative writing is, they try to put rules on it, and they want you to, you want to count how many like syllables there are in each verse and things like that, to know that, okay, you're doing this the proper way. This is going to make sense. Poetry is going to be a good poem if you do it this way. But I just write things and I read it out, and then if it comes out the way I want it, and it delivers how I want it to deliver, like a message, that's what I do. I don't sit there and count and make sure like my writing follows criteria with the proper grammar and all that stuff, because it's completely unnecessary with what I'm doing. And so I excelled at that. Like I got great grades, writing poetry without really trying, like I had like one of my poems read out in class. Like my teacher asked me if he could read out my poem because it was really good, but he wasn't going to say that it was from me, because it was kind of like a private matter. But it's expressive. And then, so like those are things I excelled at, geometry for some reason, math, like geometry, like easy. Algebra, calculus, no thank you. Division, no thank you. Obviously, like multiplication, adding, subtracting is very easy for anyone. Like social studies, World War II was a very interesting topic for me for whatever reason, and it still is, to be honest with you. And didn't have to study, didn't have to pay attention. Well, didn't have to try to pay attention. I paid attention because I was interested in it, and absorbed every single thing the teacher was saying. Tests came by, A's, didn't even have to study for it. Everything else, though, in social studies was boring. Civil War, like, I didn't really care for it. World War One, like, I didn't really care for it. So then the problem is I would have to I couldn't pay attention in class. So then I have to try to read the book, and obviously I can't read it. Not that I can't read, I just can't pay attention to what I'm reading. So then I didn't do well in those classes. Like, there's no other way to explain when a kid that goes to school every day, barely misses the day, goes even when they're sick, and the only time I really called out of school was because I had a book report where I had to do like stand up in front of the class to do a book report that I didn't really prepare well for, and it caused me a lot of anxiety. So then I would just tell my mom I'm sick, and I wouldn't go to school just so I could skip the report card or like delay having to do it. Not the report card, like a book report, like standing in front of the class and like presenting. Until this day, I'm not really down with presenting in front of an audience. Very uncomfortable at public speaking, and it caused me anxious. It won't like make me like drop dead or go in a panic attack, but the anxiety is really strong, and a lot of it is just how I perceive people's facial reactions. I have a hard time differentiating between normal faces, people smiling to be nice, people smiling to be authentic. There's a lot of ambiguous things about people's facial reactions where it's confusing to me, but normally won't be confusing to other people. And it's really hard to explain, but I think that's what causes a lot of my like anxiety when it comes to that, is because I'm like reading everyone's faces the wrong way, and then I'm not sure what I'm getting, the messages I'm getting, and then it caused me to, get a little uncomfortable, and I don't like being in like these, and it's like a situation that should be familiar, but it's always unfamiliar, and then it's tough to deal with. And this is not something that was developed later in life. Like, it's always been like this, and I've never been able to like. Obviously, I've been able to improve upon it as I got older and matured, but it still exists. It's still there, which is why you never see me like presenting anything like at NAB or like any type of content creator gathering or doing like some type of live in-person course teaching you how to like film a wedding or something like that. Like, you're never going to see that from me. But like talking to the camera, I'm okay with, because obviously the camera doesn't have any facial reactions. I'm just talking. And again, I'm like rambling, but going back to the whole ADHD thing, other than this disorganization, mind always wandering, daydreaming all the time. And although going to school every freaking day, never missing a day in class, always on time. And, I never started being late until like I started dating my wife, but my wife is chronically late at everything. And, as it goes, you just kind of fall into your wife's schedule. But I'm the type of person who's always on time before. And yeah, like, why would I get bad grades? Like, my grades weren't great. It would be very sporadic. Like, I'll get really good grades one semester, and then the next semester is completely poor, because every semester they change what they're teaching you. And if it's interesting one semester, great. If it's not, what am I going to do? And it was really disappointing to my mom. And like, it's a struggle, because when you don't know that you have like some deficiency, compared to like the norm and the way like a school classroom environment is designed for, and you perform very poorly, like sometimes you wonder like, yo, am I dumb? Am I stupid? And it was really hard on my mom, because, in Asian cultures, academics are so important. And when, her friends are calling her and they're saying like, you should never compare your kids, right? But like, as a kid, like, I felt bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's just when other people calling her and telling them like, oh, my kid's got straight A's. Oh, my kid got like all, barely any B's. And then, my mom will say, oh yeah, my son, he got A's and B's. Like, literally 10 seconds before the phone call, she was, lecturing me and telling me how Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I not getting good grades? Like, please pay attention in class. You need to do this or else you're going to be a trash man or something when you grow up. And, like as a kid growing up, that could, has a really big effect on you. You know what I mean? It took me 6 years to graduate college. And the only reason why I even like pushed through was, it was for my parents. You know what I mean? Like, the thing is, and there's the autistic side, right? Like, I don't need much for me to know, like, my parents loved me as a kid. Like, I didn't need them to say it, you know, like, because I just sit around. I'm very observant. And, like, if they didn't love me, they'll probably kick me out of the house or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, they discipline me, they spank my butt and stuff like that with explanations. They fed me well. I had birthday parties and stuff like that. Like, it's very obvious, that they work very hard for my brother and I to have a better life. And I just want to make sure I just got the degree for them, like, hey, look, we risked our lives to sail across, dangerous waters in the middle of the night to go from Vietnam to Malaysia, with the 50-50 chance of survival, pirates, disease, viruses, storms, weather, and to come to America for these kids to get a better life. And I had every opportunity to get a better life, and I didn't. And I understand, like, going to college is not the be all end all for anything. That doesn't mean you're going to be successful. There's a lot of people who graduate college who are bums, and there's a lot of people who don't graduate college and are doing great in life. But like my parents, they only had like up to second grade education. But the reason why I was able to push through, obviously with not great grades, like probably like a C average college degree in economics, I did it for them, just push through. And it's a waste of money too, like 6 years, and my mom paid for it all. My parents paid for it. So I still feel guilty about that, to be honest with you, because I just wasted a lot of money taking that long. But things didn't work out for me, like in the art field, because, my portfolio was just whatever. Like, I had a huge obsession with cars. And this comes back to like being autistic, right? Most people like cars. In the height of my car guy obsession, special interest, whatever you want to call it, it was strong. And that was all I was thinking about. That's all I was caring about. And my like portfolio, because my art teacher got sick the last 6 months of my senior year of high school, and the portfolio is very important to get into the art program at any college. My portfolio was whatever I felt like drawing or painting. And all I painted was cars. So I just had a bunch of like paintings of cars. And of course, that's not going to cut it when there's criteria. They want still lives of plants and fruits, which is stupid. Like, and it's the way school is structured, but Western, or at least American public school system, is complete bullshit. And I'm not saying this just because it didn't work for me, like in terms of working for my brain, art is creative. So why are you making kids do things in these ancient ways of just drawing apples and stuff? Like, what's the point of that? Why concentrate so much on like doing pastels when, you could try it out, but then if you don't like it, just move on to something else, and not just in art, but like in everything, like math. Do you really need to go to calculus? Like, hey, if you have an interest in calculus, go have at it, But if you don't, like, why? Because a lot of kids struggle with that, and for no reason, because they end up not even using it later in life, in the real world. So I don't know. Like, the way school's designed is very broken, and I think society would be better off if kids just got at to a certain point just got to like focus on their actual interests, because when people are interested in something, they're going to be way better at it, because they're going to always want to work on it. They're going to always want to improve upon it. They're always going to research it. They're always going to find ways to get better. And you're going to end up having like just better people and people working in the right fields, doing the right jobs. We want to talk about like merit. Like there's people who have good jobs just because they are good at studying, good at reading. But, are all your doctors and nurses and lawyers in some of the most important positions in society, are they the best possible candidate? Maybe on paper, right? Because they're able to graduate, but there's probably that dude right somewhere out there that is, I don't know, a janitor or like a waste management guy. And I'm not talking down on these jobs. Like these guys are clearly providing for their families and all that stuff. I'm not even dissing it. But if things were just worked out better for them, like if the school was more designed for them to do things that they love without adding nonsense fluff to it. Like, what if that janitor was really interested in like brain surgery, but like he was not good at math and then, he couldn't get through calculus or something, and then just couldn't make it through all the way. And then now the world is devoid of someone who could actually be a really good brain surgeon, but the guy is cleaning bathrooms. It might be an extreme case, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of people, and you see it all the time in healthcare and stuff like that, who don't really love what they're doing. They did it because society says this is a good job, you're going to get paid well, it's prestigious, whatever, and they get into it. And that's why, the quality is so poor. It's like when you talk to your doctor about certain things, there's no reason why they shouldn't know more than you about a subject. And I get that so often where like when I had my knee surgery done on my injured knee, I felt like I knew more about my knee than he did, because obviously my knee was more of interest to me. And I like did all these research on that type of injury, and the doctor's observation, his knowledge of it was very vague. I mean, obviously he did the surgery, but I read that there was like a better type of surgery for it, but he wasn't aware of it. He never performed it. So it's just like, it shouldn't be like that. And I feel like if he was truly interested in his craft, he probably would have read into it. It's like me, when I love cars, I mean, I'm telling you, I love cars and I still do. Like I could point out the brand, the make and model, and almost a year of most cars on the street from far away. Like, okay, that's a Ford Explorer. It's Ford. That's a Honda Pilot. And I'm talking about random cars, not even like specific like Mustangs, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, whatever. It's like, oh, that's a Honda Civic. Oh, that's a 99 Civic. That's a Honda Civic Si Type R. Oh, that over there is a Subaru WRX STI 2006. Like, I could just point stuff out. And, same thing with video gear, and this is where like the autistic obsessions again. I know a lot about random cameras, guys. Like, I know a lot of random specs on cameras that I don't even have, like Panasonic, Canon, you name it. Like, I could just watch like one quick video about a camera, and then I kind of remember the specs. And like a lot of like my videos on this stuff is not scripted because like, dude, like I'm interested in this stuff. So like I just retain this information and I just regurgitate it. Like I can't tell you the amount of times I go to shoots, like wedding shoots, right? And I work with other photographers and stuff like that. And 10 times out of 10, I was about to say 10 times out of 10, I know more about their cameras than they do. Like I know more about what their camera is capable of than they do. And I'm like, yo, you're weird. In my head, I'm like, why are these people so weird? Like, why do they have these cameras and they know jack shit about it? And the reality is, I'm the weird one. Because most people just need to know enough and they just get it. They just buy it. Like, there's no reason why me not owning a Canon camera should I know what like a Canon R5 is capable of, Whereas like all these photographers I work with have Canon R5 and they have no idea that it could do, 8K video. They have no idea it could do 4K 60. I understand they're photographers, but I know like, hey, Sony A1, I know it's a 50 megapixel camera. I know the, Sony A3 Mark II is 24 megapixels or something like that. Could do like 30 frames plus per second. Like, there's no reason why I need to know that as a videographer, but I do. And then when I see like photographers like have no idea, like they could do like certain autofocus modes and stuff like that, it's just mind boggling. But that's the norm. And like my knowledge and stuff, like what information I hold on to on like certain things, like is not the norm. And like all because, you have like these kind of traits too, like it doesn't necessarily mean you're like autistic and stuff. You have to have other stuff, other things, right? So like my disconnect when I was just diagnosed with ADHD, and I get this video is long, but this is just how it's going to be. Like this is the only way I'm going to get this out. The one thing that drew me towards figuring out, hey, like I may be autistic was like the social aspect of the social deficiencies of someone who is autistic. So like I was able to talk, definitely earlier than my son was, but like I wasn't really willing to. So obviously my parents are old and they didn't really know about this stuff back then, and they probably didn't pay attention as much as me. But, obviously like them calling my name and me not responding, that's a huge red flag for ADHD and autism, right? But like the other things was like, I just didn't talk much, I would just sit there and stare into space or look outside the window or something, like thinking about my own stuff, whatever it was. Like, I just didn't really care for that stuff. And then there's like a really random deficiencies in like how I learned specific things. And until this day, I still have a lot of issues tying knots. I'm a fisherman, man. I'm obsessed with fishing. But like, there's no reason why like every time I go fishing or every year I have to like get a refresh on how to tie certain knots. And it's just confused. Like a lot of, like knot tying is like is not necessarily like a motor thing, but it's just like, it's hard for me to memorize and just like figure out like how these knots work. It took me a long time to learn how to tie my shoes. I wore Velcro shoes for a long time, like maybe even through first grade or something like that. And the way I tie shoes, I kind of just learned on my own when I realized like it's pretty normal now how you tie it, but like the way I figured it out was different. I struggle with directions, like where to go type of directions. Like without Google Maps, I don't know what I would do. And, obviously still to this day as an adult, like if I go to like a hotel or something, I go in an elevator, I go somewhere, when I go back out, if I'm not really trying to think about it, I'll walk the wrong way. Like I'll completely go the wrong direction thinking that's the right direction. Just random stuff like that. That's, obviously that's not social, but in terms of like socially speaking, I have a lot of issues with starting conversation. I have a lot of issues with maintaining conversation. I have a lot of issues with talking too much about my own interests. I have a lot of issues with properly reciprocating to what other people are saying. I have a lot of issues with talking than more than 1 to 2 people at a time. And I have a lot of trouble maintaining friendships. And like I have a lot of issues dealing with social cues, being polite, things that you learn as a kid naturally. I need to be told. And it's a problem. If it wasn't for like my brother, like if it wasn't for like having an older brother helping introduce me to like new friends and stuff like that, my life probably been a lot different. You're gonna call me weird or whatever, but like growing up, the way I viewed friendship was I just wanted one friend at a time. I just wanted one friend, and I was loyal to that one friend. But then as soon as the other friend, which is completely normal for them to have other friends, if they started like bringing in other friends, like a second one, as soon as that friend would bring another friend, like now there's 3 of us, 4 of us, things got way too complicated for me. And now I have to like, gosh, now I'm going to have to like learn how to communicate to this person and this person because people are different. And it becomes anxiety inducing. And then you can see how like growing up, I would think I'm a weirdo because it's like, yo, like, why do I want to be so possessive over this one friend? And then, so what I did was I would just stop hanging out with that one friend. Like I would stop talking to them at school, and I'll start talking to some like try to like make another friend who seemed like, they didn't have a friend because I wanted friendship, until this day, like I love having my friends, you know what I mean? But I just wanted like one strong friendship. And when they naturally added in other friends, like I would just started like drifting away. And I remember, gosh, it's weird because I had this one friend, a really good friend, in grade school. I couldn't remember. It might have been like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade or something like that. And it's like one of those things I really had to think about. I think it was through 6th grade. It got to middle school and all that stuff. But, we go to middle school, he's like he was like my best friend in like 6th grade and all that stuff. And then, we're hanging out, playing video games and stuff. And he was he would be like my best friend from school. But I also had like best friends like in the neighborhood. But like those 2 friends never really like mixed. You know what I mean? Like, and even if we did play with like a group of other kids, like a big group, that is still like my friend. And like everyone else are like acquaintances and stuff. We're playing together. But then when we went to like middle school, obviously you start meeting, other people. And then my friend started making friends with some new kids. Obviously still my friend, but then like because like now he's introducing like 1 or 2 other dudes, to our like little group or whatever, I started looking for like another like quote unquote exclusive friend, right? And again, like I understand it sounds weird as crap. It's not what you think. You would think that like I'm some weirdo who's like stalking my friend and stuff like that. Like I never did that stuff. It was just like, yo man, like I want to hang out. I just want to chill, like someone to talk to, play games with, but like I'm not trying to deal with like the complications of your different personalities and stuff like that. So I'm like, whatever, man. Like, if he wants to make other friends, it's fine. I'm going to just find another friend. And that's what I did. But then as like high school came along, like I started figuring things out a little bit. And then I started making like more like groups of friends. But I still like had preferences for what like my true real friends are. And I understood like I'm not going to get too like involved deeply with these other friends outside of like my 1 or 2 good friends because they're in like, it's gonna sound really messed up, but like they're insignificant. And then like, man, I end up alienating some kids, man. Like there's people who wanted to be my friends and I just couldn't, I just didn't show effort, but like, it's not really their fault, man. It's just like, I can't manage all of that, I can't like introduce you into the group. Like, it's just, we could be friends, man, but like, it's gonna be tough for me to like mingle y'all, and that one friend, man, I had back in 6th grade, like I think about him until this day, because now as an adult, you learn, and I feel messed up, man, like, because I remember we're at his house sometimes, like, yo, like, why did, like, all of a sudden I just really stopped hanging out, and I just started hanging out, having this other friend, and then it's like, it was just really abrupt to them. And I remember we met up at someone's house, man. The guy had like tears in his eyes and stuff like that. I don't remember what I said. You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember what I said to him or how I did it, but like one way or the other, like our friendship kind of ended there when it was like a really good friendship, man. And, I just feel really bad about it. And then like, I actually try to find this guy like on Facebook and stuff. I just can't find him. And literally just to like reach out and just apologize, you know what I mean? But yeah, like there's like a lot of like random relationships that I had, like even through college, and even, you know, as I matured, like I met some friends in college, man, and you know, things didn't go well for me at college, and I just dipped out, you know, and never talked to them again. And then like I'd meet them again like 5 years later or something. Like, yo, what happened, man? Like, oh, I like transferred out or whatever. You know, reality is what I got like expelled from University of Maryland, Baltimore County for getting horrendous grades 2 semesters straight. But and craziest thing was I went to every class. I was always on time in class. I never missed class. I was there all the time. Just couldn't pay attention. But multiple friends, man. Like is just make friends, you know, have a really deep, you know, relationship, and then like I would just cut it off. And to me, it was like whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you know, these guys have other friends, you know, like they don't need me, but and I'll be like that, you know what I mean? And it's like messed up, you know, when I look back at it. But that doesn't mean I don't have any friends, you know, like I have, you know, friends, whether it be like, you know, Say Park, you know, he works with me, RJ, you know, he works with me. I have my close friends who are like my groomsmen from like high school, and a lot of these guys like I wouldn't talk to for like a year, 2 years, don't even see them. I'm really bad at keeping up with friends, but like, you know, every time I message them, if I ever see them, it's like, you know, it's like we never left. You know what I mean? Like like the friends I have, I don't have a lot, but like when I do have these relationships, like they're really strong friendships. Like they're deep, non-surface level friendships, you know. And when I do hang out with them, we usually talk about and do things that we have mutual interests in, and that we could have like deep talks and conversations about. It's never like subsurface stuff. Like it's never small talk kind of thing. With regards to small talk, I hate that. You know, I have a lot of trial problems, like sitting at the bus stop with my daughter, going to like birthday parties she's invited to, and there's other parents there. Like it's like a disaster for me. I hate it. It's draining. And, you know, I have to do it. I'm an adult. I'm not going to just sit at home, but I'd rather not. But my son is about to be home from the school, so I'm going to continue this in a little bit. So where was I? I was talking about, was I talking about friendships? Yeah, so pretty much it's hard for me to talk about things that I'm not interested in. And when I'm talking about things I'm interested in, I can talk for way too long, way too much. And the average person doesn't have that kind of attention span for something as in-depth as something like, I don't know, videography or video game emulation or the Washington Commanders or fishing or whatever else I'm into. And then it can get out of hand. And yeah, people walk away from me a lot in conversation sometimes, at least, you know, when I'm thinking back. But as I become more aware of it, I actively try to listen to what people are saying and then respond appropriately, and then not go into my own subjects or whatever it is that's going on in my mind. Like a lot of people, you go to the grocery store or something, and they say, like, I could see like one of my good friends there. But if I'm in the grocery store for like a purpose, like I would rather not even talk to them. You know, I could see them, and then if they spot me, I'm like, oh crap. Because then now we can have like chit chat and everything. And a lot of that's just small talk. Oh, how you doing? How your family's doing? Yeah, and I don't value that as much as like a normal person. And yeah, like it, basically what I have is known as like chronic low-grade anxiety, meaning I'm always anxious at a baseline level, and even when I am anxious, I may not even know it, or I may not even feel it like a regular person would, but I have chronic low-grade anxiety. I don't take anything for it. I don't want to take anything for it. I don't need to take anything for it. It's just one of those things, man. Like, it's one of those things that you deal with your entire life. And then at this point, it's just a part of me now. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Other things autistic people are known for is like stimming, hand flapping, spinning, things of that nature. I would say I probably used to do that when I was like younger, and my parents probably disciplined me for it. And then also like in school, again, I quickly learned that it is inappropriate or weird. So I don't want to stand out like a sore thumb, because you stand out like a sore thumb, people are going to make fun of you. So, I found different ways to quote unquote stim, tapping the desk, doodling, drawing, fidgeting with my pencil. My mom, when she cut my hair, she kept me like a little like rat tail, not a full blown ponytail, but just literally like a tail. And I would just sit there just playing with that, like biting my nails, chewing ice. I love chewing. Like, there's a lot of things that I do that where I could subtly stim and, just relaxing, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, like, when I'm not in public, I do some weird stuff. Like, my son, he's autistic, so he will just start making all these random noises, and sometimes I just make those random noises with him. And, if I was outside at a park doing that, people would be like, yo, like, what's going on with these people? But to me, it's just cool, man. It's like relaxing. I could see why he does it. And then when I do it, I'm like, wow, this is, letting out some steam. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's definitely hereditary. It's not, like, autism isn't like some disease or, caused by like chemicals kind of thing. Like, there's, the way it's like described, it's like something is wrong with you. I mean, we could easily say, well, something's wrong with you. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you need different types of people. Like, you can't just have everyone just kind of like falling in the same box. You need people who do things differently. You need people who think outside the box. You need that for like humans to advance, in society, like just as like a race of people or whatever. It's just, you need to, autistic people are smarter than non-autistic people or something. It's like, no, there's people who are just really intelligent socially and works in a communal fashion. And then there's autistic people who could really specialize in being really, really good at a certain thing. And that's when you discover, new stuff. Like, you need someone who's just really, really good at, there is a need for individuals who have special interest in certain things to excel at it. And then, hopefully that ends up turning into something really great for overall society. When it comes to special interests, like, obviously people with ADHD have special interests. This is one of those things that kind of like overlap with autism. But like, in terms of hobbies and interests, it could get in the way of like normal life. So when I got interested in videography, it was really strong to the point where I went from an account that never touched the camera before to like a full-blown videographer, professional videographer within like a year and a half, learning everything on my own. Prior to picking up my first camera, I never owned or even experimented with a professional camera before. And then, it completely consumed my life. Like, instead of properly doing work, in my accounting job, like, I would be like researching a video, and all that stuff. And then anytime I get back into like one of my special interests, I get really worried because I know it's going to be a huge distraction to the rest of my life. Like fishing season is about to come back. I go fishing. As soon as I catch that first fish, it's going to be a problem because like I'm going to be really obsessed with it. I'm going to always thinking about doing it. I'm always, online researching different techniques, online researching different lures. instead of doing things I should be doing, like, I don't know, laundry, cleaning up the house, edit client work. I think I mentioned before when the Commanders were in the playoffs for like a month and a half last year, completely just took me away, you know, and it works for me in my situations because I'm my own boss. But just imagine me working for like a company, you know, corporate company, or if I was back in school and this happens. Clearly, it's going to cause some serious issues with my success in an environment where like other people are actively relying on me to like do work, or, you know, there's expectations from me to finish things at a certain time. And in the grand scheme of things, a lot of like these structures in school and in the workplace is kind of bullshit. Like why do you need to have 20 people in a meeting to discuss one little thing? It could be send an email, but you have people in this hour meeting, 20 people, you're paying everyone hourly, however much, to sit here and basically waste time and talk about one thing that could have been sent an email. I would never understand that in the corporate world, but apparently they need to do that. So just like these little like random structures in like a 9-to-5 work environment that just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for many people on ADHD. It doesn't work for many people on the spectrum. You know, some people, depending on like the type of job they do, yeah, maybe that structure helps, you know, but for me, like someone whose mind wanders constantly, who needs to do different things, that kind of environment is very problematic. And again, it's like the most common thing that's said about people with ADHD or autistic is that they're lazy. And I mean, lazy would be sitting there doing absolutely nothing. I think, you know, ADHD or autistic individuals, there's just something going on in our minds where we have issues starting, you know, with whatever it is that we're doing. And look, like, my hyperfocus is strong as heck, but at the same time, it takes a while to get there, especially if it's not something I'm interested at the moment. You know, like if I'm video editing and the video is something that's kind of boring, once I get into it and I start getting into a flow, it's called like autistic inertia. It's like a ball rolling downhill. It takes some time to get started, but once you get started, it's hard to stop. And then if I stop, I have to start back up again. So it's really annoying if I have to ever stop doing something. So it's very hard for me to like be productive and get work done if I don't have like a large chunks of time. If I have to do something for only like an hour, it's very troublesome. It's like a disturbance, you know, like it's going to bother me the rest of the day. Like if there's a video I really want to edit and get done, if I sit down, edit, and I start it, I want to finish it. If I'm sitting there and then I have to stop every hour, I can, because I am flexible, but it's going to bug me the rest of the day. I'm going to think about it the rest of the day. You know, if I have to like take my kids out and then I know I'm like leaving that work behind, you know, unfortunately for my kids, you know, their dad is going to be like completely focused on them because I am distracted. And that's how, you know, that's what I have to live with, and that's how it affects other people around me, you know, because I don't operate on the same wavelength as everyone else. So it just can cause conflict. It could cause a lot of stress. So that's what it is, guys. It's not, this video is running long, and, you know, there's obviously a lot more to it. There's a lot more I could talk about. All I have to say is this, okay? Autism, ADHD, it's all a real thing, okay? These things exist. Like, you can argue about the labels. Like, should it be labeled that way? Should people identify with those labels? But it's a real thing. Like, the characteristics of these things in people are a real thing. You want to call it a personality? Fine. It's just, when there's severity to it, you can't discount it by just saying, oh, everyone's like a little bit something. Not if you are really affected by it. Like it really disrupts your life or other lives of people around you. And, of course, it doesn't help that on social media these days, there's a bunch of people, talking about ADHD who aren't really, don't really have ADHD. And there's people who talk about autism but aren't really autistic at all. Like, and that's the biggest problem for me is like on social media, you have people like saying they're autistic and they represent autism, but they're like really like out there. They, colored hair, they're really like flamboyant about it. For some reason, some other like communities always try to like claim like autism, and I think there's like a different agenda behind that, and I think it's really disgusting. But it's hard for someone like me to like look at that and like relate to it because I don't. You know what I mean? It's like I think the vast majority of people who are autistic who appear normal are people like me, guys. Like, you wouldn't really tell. You couldn't tell. And honestly, I don't think we're going to be trying to like call attention to us. Like, look at me, like that's why I see all like these rainbow hair people and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from people, but I don't know. I'm not trying to call attention to myself like that, but everyone is different. And I would say some autistics that like doing that stuff, they're legitimately autistic, but then some, I don't know. I think there's other things going on. But that, that's really it. Like, I hope that I gave people some clarity. I hope that I communicated some clarity with what it is. I hope that, if you think you might be autistic and, and you find this relatable, maybe it gives you like something to think about. Maybe you could do more research on it and then see if you really are. And then you go, visit a psychiatrist. The only problem is like these psychologists and stuff like that, they're really expensive. So that's another downside to all of this. And then those of you who just like doubt or, like to like downplay autism and ADHD and all that stuff, like I hope, this gives you some more insight because it's not as simple as just like kind of being distracted sometimes or being shy or something like that. It affects a lot of things in a person's life. And, because they have to live in like this society, like it affects a lot of people based on, like it affects people due to the society that they live in and what society expects out of them. School, workplace, all that stuff. So yeah, like honestly, like I feel very lucky and blessed that, I do have a job. I have a family. I have a house. Like people look at me and say, hey, that guy has his life together. But the reality is, man, this is my office. You know what I mean? Like the rest of my house, thankfully, is clean. My office is the only place that's like this. So, yeah. So, I don't know how this is going to be edited, but, if it ends up being all like jacked up, you may not even see it. But if you do see it, thanks for watching this far. Like, subscribe. Until next time, lighten up. Welcome to my dream Tube Douche studio tour, where clearly my ADHD has taken over the office. Today, I gotta try to make a video for these Suray Nightwalker lenses. Of course, my son's daycare had other plans. They called me telling me to come pick him up because he threw up. This did actually happen, but the only difference was I was on the toilet taking a massive dump instead of standing in this immaculate window lighting. I'll pick him up. Look at this YouTube douchebag trying to act and film himself on the Surae Nightwalker 24mm Freewell Edgar Mattebox Sony FX30 with Condor Blue cage sitting on a Leo Photo carbon tripod. My wife works as a full-time registered nurse, doing the Lord's work. Since I work from home, I handle the kids. For those of you who don't know, I actually do have ADHD and was diagnosed as autistic last year, also known as Asperger's syndrome, ASD level 1, mild or quote-unquote high-functioning autism. Generally speaking, autistic people like myself have an overdeveloped logical reasoning part of the brain and underdeveloped social emotional part of the brain. For me, navigating social emotional interaction is like trying to film yourself with a manual focus lens, like the Surae Nightwalker. It takes some extra work to get the shots in focus. You gotta do a lot of back and forth to double check. You gotta use an external monitor to see properly. You gotta do a lot of things over and over. Whereas it seems the majority of quote-unquote normal individuals are like autofocusing lenses in social situations. Just as it is a lot more physically tiring having to manual focus a lens, it is mentally exhausting for me to try to process social situations. Of course, there are other symptoms, but this is the one that has had the largest impact on my life. Through experience, trials, and tribulations, I've made it. I am all well and good. My current predicament is this. My son is like me. He was also recently diagnosed as autistic. I discovered myself being autistic while researching about autism when he showed the signs. He has his autistic quirks, but most notably, like his father, he has issues with social communication. He is 3 and does not verbally interact with other kids or adults. He also takes longer to process things communicated to him. He makes vocal sounds and pulls my hand to get things he wants. I believe I was similar at his age. I may have been a little bit more developed socially, but he is certainly far more intelligent, intellectually and emotionally. I'm genuinely curious if his mind wanders the same way mine does.
Let me know if I should get that 1635 G to start thinking about check white balance. I wonder if I should show you 1635 G that shows in there. Maybe if I sell you. Maybe I guess I'll just can't believe I'm filming myself for YouTube. I wonder if one of his videos can get any views. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 views. Just someone to see the shot before next time I go fishing. And coach. People don't think about the name. See the shots. Good time. Third close to the flash. Got all the laundry to do. Gotta buy schools of calories. And add some water to this. Crush the close to foot. Got all that time to do this egg. What time is it? Time. What's the weather outside? Calories. 31st.
The kid knows the entire alphabet, colors, numbers past 20, and shapes such as hexagon. Not gonna lie, I didn't think I knew the alphabet until kindergarten. So this Sirui Nightwalker lens. Finally, maybe I have time to unbox the 35mm now. It's well packaged. Typical Sirui comes with a cloth lens pouch clearly sewn at a high-end Chinese sweatshop. The lens is well built, has some weight to it. Looks and feels like a very high-quality piece of glass for only around $300. The focus and aperture ring are very smooth. Maybe a bit too smooth. Lens cap feels a bit weird. Nothing to really complain about. Maybe other than no weather sealing gasket at the lens mount.
Jackson.
Seems like a normal 3-year-old to me. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's a great kid. I wouldn't want him to be any different. I just hope he doesn't have to go through what I went through growing up. The social awkwardness, the constant feeling of being different than everyone else, the constant confusion, the constant inability to connect with those around me. The constant battle with anxiety. I was born in the 80s. Grew up in the 90s. I was taught that men shed blood, not tears. I was taught to be disciplined and tough. These are values that helped me get through and be where I am today. There is no amount of negativity towards me out in the world or in the comments section that will bring me down, because I've already been through much, much worse. My childhood. I just hope I can help him get through what I know is coming. At last, some time to myself. Some time to get lost in my own world. Get lost in my own headspace.
Hope people don't think that I actually bought it. Hope people don't think I actually made this myself. Maybe I just gotta repeat a lot of thoughts with it. Get the timeline in. Gotta check this every timeline to say. Check those waivers. Another day. This is straight carryover photo from the other day. Out of all things I was gonna eat, I had to eat pho. Judging me for this. This is straight carryover pho, sriracha sauce, but it tastes good. Order chunks of sriracha sauce. Out of all things, sriracha sauce. You can't believe sriracha sauce. That's 1635 G. There's a shortage for sriracha sauce. Order chunks of 1635. This pho is gonna get cold. Maybe if I time leave sriracha sauce. Maybe I just hope this pho tastes good. There's a shortage. Shout out to sauce. Why I keep praying the same thing. This pho is gonna get cold. Pray the same way every day. Hope this pho tastes good. Can't believe it. Hope people don't think that I actually bought it. Hope people don't think I actually made this myself. In Jesus' name. Wait, I wonder if I should get that 1635 cut up this weekend. Get the time like this up. I should get this 1635 time like this chicken. Can't believe if I shot in focus. Push the light off this over next time. Go fishing. Then you gotta eat up the left. Get your shots of that too bad.
Before I knew about autism, when he was first born, I remember thinking and hoping that he would turn out someone like me. Someone who thinks outside the box. Someone who doesn't follow the crowd. Someone who thinks just a bit deeper. I guess in this case, I've gotten exactly what I wished for.
Hey man, what that microphone?
It's a Cinco D1 shotgun mic.
Oh my god, that rat?
Why is that?
It make in China.
Bro, all because it's made in China doesn't mean it's bad.
If you want to be the best, if you want to be professional, you need to buy Make in USA.
Bro, everything is made in China.
Let me show you. DJI.
DJI is the definition of China.
Suray.
Come on, Suray sounds like a Chinese menu item. That is China.
Insta360.
That is a full 360 degrees of China.
Apple Make in USA.
Bro, both the phones and probably the ones that you eat is from China.
Oh my god,